I guess I want to start off with, I do a lot of reading on our local nuclear power plants, and this seems to be a constant problem on getting information, timely information, to the public. As it goes for shalls instead of shoulds, as it comes for the North Anna nuclear power plant's radioactive effluence reports, every year it's getting later and later and later on the public being able to see it published. Already, we're 7 months late on getting the North Anna nuclear power plant's radioactive effluence reports, which shows us if our tritium levels are higher and all the other information that comes along with that, what's being tested as it goes for vegetation for our farmers. And every year, it's like clockwork, when I go to the annual review at North Anna, that report's never available. So you go there, you can ask some basic questions, but you have nothing in your hand that you can ask about the well levels being tested or anything, because they never make it accessible to the public until after the meeting. And at this chance, it's 7 months late and still no 2017 report at all. So that's pretty ridiculous. So that should be a shall instead of a should. The public would really like that kind of, transparency. I think it's very important. And I also am going to continue to mention that North Anna is 1 and 2. 3 hopefully never happens because it's a ridiculous project price and everything that goes along with it. It is in the Virginia seismic zone. We will continue to have earthquakes, and hopefully we don't have one worse than we did in 2011. We've had 1 earthquake in the past 7 days. We've had 1 earthquake in the past 30 days. We've had 22 in the past 365 days. July 5th, we had the 1.7 magnitude in Louisa County. We can hope it wasn't a foreshock. As it goes for, I wanted to mention that NPR had actually a report that came on the radio and also online. More than half of the nation's nuclear power plants are at risk of closing. The nuclear power industry is having trouble competing against cheaper natural gas and renewable energy, so it's begun touting its low greenhouse gas emissions as it seeks public subsidies. And it was mentioned in the article from one of their guests that if you consider nuclear green, then you have to ignore high-level nuclear waste. Because I can guarantee you, after everything's said and done, even from this temporary parking lot storage dumps they're talking about, transporting all this waste all over somewhere, when you account for all that fossil fuel that's going to be needed, and the time and the energy and uranium mining, blah, 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 I'm sorry, nuclear energy is not green energy. And the biggest gripe of all is going to be that the public's going to continue to question, why should we be giving public money, more public money to nuclear power plants instead of being used for renewable energy sources? I mean, that's going to continue to be a problem. And it's mentioned about the workforce. Look around this table. It gives you a good example. Where are the young people? I mean, he's probably our youngest one here. Where are the young people?
He is.
Oh, well, okay, but he's the facilitator. I'm simply saying...
How old do you think I am?
Oh, well, are you younger than him?
I'm almost 40.
Well, I've been around long enough to watch this industry and watch how things are going, and yet they are slated to be closing because they're not economical. They are aging. The parts replacement, if we can get the parts that are reliable. I mean, heck, I put a bearing in at Ford, and a month later the bearing in the wheel went bad. There you go. And that's just my vehicle, not dealing with a nuclear power station. So, essentially, and I even think I wrote it down, how many are, we've got 40 to 49-year-old plants. We've got 48 of them in the United States. So it's 48 nuclear power plant. And yeah, okay, so everybody's got a 60-year extension, so another 20 years, and want to go for 80 years. But they're already closing ahead of schedule because they're not economical. And Gene can tout about, how nuclear is needed to for the whole gas emissions and everything. But Dominion's full steam ahead with gas. So, I mean, it's kind of like want to have everything and kind of keep everything in check. And I'm glad to hear they're going more forward with wind energy. But nuclear waste, the risk of nuclear issues, I mean, it's a problem. So, it's just, it's time to switch gears and realize where we need to be. I mean, as it goes for the workforce, yeah, you're right. I mean, there's less young people that are interested because they're more interested in renewables and sustainability, and I'm glad. That's good. I've got a 17-year-old, and he's all on it, so I think that's terrific. But where the schools really need to be focusing is on decommissioning, better storage, canisters, etc., and especially cybersecurity. I mean, there you go. That's where the schools should be plugging in right there. But if Virginia's going to be the leader in anything to do with nuclear energy, why aren't y'all focusing there instead of looking at how can we keep these plants keep going? We need more money. We need the subsidies. That's where we need to focus. We're going to be leaders in anything. Because there's going to be a run. There's going to be a run on decommissioning. And I don't know. That's going to be billions of dollars, and then a plant's going to sit somewhere for 40 years as it cools down and whatnot. And the whole idea of tracking the waste somewhere else, I mean, we're dealing with a lot of stuff there. So, and the reality of when it comes to nuclear energy, we need to probably really think about when we're going to decommission our plants, and instead of dumping all this money into a pit, really take those funds and those monies and put it towards something that has actually more reliability. Because I read the NRC reports daily and see what's going on. We've got quite a few, actually more than a handful of plants that are at lower power or completely off the grid because of problems. Valves, this, that, and the other. So the reliability when it comes to nuclear, just like in Europe right now, in a lot of places in Europe, because of the heat and the water intake, they actually have had to either shut them down or run them at reduced power because the water's too hot to even cool them. So that's an issue. When you look at storms, hurricanes, and tornadoes, that's an issue. Ice, that's an issue. And so nuclear energy and reliability, yeah, sure, as long as everything else is going fine, but they have to be connected to a grid. Your grid goes down, well, I'm sorry. Yeah, the generators can kick on. But I'm just saying, we've got to look to the future, not to the past. Otherwise, we're putting our money and all this into these dinosaurs when they're just money pits. And we're going to continue to create more nuclear waste. But the future generations, including people like my son at 17 years old, can see that writing on the wall. Where do you put all this nuclear waste and put a sign on it for a million years, don't dig here? I mean, great idea that eventually maybe they'll come up with a solution to be able to, reutilize it. But even where we are right now with that technology, you still end up with nuclear waste. It's just even more toxic, maybe a smaller amount. And it's very expensive. So we need to switch gears here and look at, instead of dumping more money into nuclear energy, and take those funds and put them towards renewables. And yes, gas does have emissions, and Dominion obviously is very happy about exporting gas and pipelines and all that stuff too. So is it a matter of our industry here wants to have their fingers in everything? I mean, how about let's put more fingers into offshore wind and renewables and energy efficiency that actually protects the public and is better for our environment and will actually create new jobs for the young people coming out. That's the kind of jobs they want. So I guess that's all I really have to say today. Thank you.